You don't have to be born a genius. You can become one. In this video, I'm going to share 3 habits that the world's most intelligent people have used to literally rewire their brain for maximum output, and which you can start using too. And I'm going to draw upon my years of experience as a published academic researcher in the cognitive sciences to do so. Starting with the first habit, curiosity as a way of life. The famous polymath Leonardo da Vinci left behind a massive footprint demonstrating exactly what the spirit of curiosity can achieve. From anatomy and painting to engineering and astronomy and so much more, da Vinci truly had a passion for learning. And it was this passion that drove him to create and contribute in the prolific way he did. But I already know what you're thinking. It's easier said than done, right? You might not feel naturally curious about things, or you might feel like you're somewhat intellectually curious, but you'd love to become even more curious and simply don't know where to start. Well, in the book Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, Daniel Pink draws upon some of the latest research on human motivation to identify 3 key factors that are truly pivotal, not only in lighting that fire of curiosity, but in keeping it going throughout our entire lives. And those 3 factors are 1, autonomy, 2, mastery, and 3, purpose. If I think back to my college days, especially in my undergrad, I felt this huge sense of intellectual freedom. Suddenly, it was my own choice what I studied. It was my major that I chose. I went freely from topic to topic with essentially no plan, almost as if I were at a huge buffet, sampling everything that looked good to me. And this is actually a fantastic approach to learning, as is once again evidenced by how Da Vinci approached learning. This is what is meant by autonomy. You see, you don't have to take some traditional path to gaining wisdom and knowledge. You can start with literature or film just because. You can study robotics or the software of video game systems just because. And step by step, you'll end up on the right path because it's that sense of freedom, that sense that there are no ideas or approaches that are off limits, that feels exhilarating to you. And do you see how this can start to feed that curiosity? And the same goes for mastery and purpose. After you've sampled enough at your own buffet, stop a while and start focusing on a few main courses. That's mastery, and it's all about starting to identify those few areas that truly hold your attention, without the self-judgment we all too often cast upon ourselves about what we should like or should enjoy. Simply focus on philosophia, or simply put, the love of wisdom as an end in itself. But this habit, as important as it is only the foundation of genius. And that's why we need to develop the second habit on this list, a wandering mind. The famous physicist Richard Feynman notably never stuck to one field or one way of thinking. He constantly explored biology, art, music, even taking up playing the bongos. But this is just a matter of being multidisciplinary, right? Not really. It's not just about being multidisciplinary. Having what I call a wandering mind is more like an attitude or tendency, and it takes 2 forms. 1, structured wandering, and 2, unstructured wandering. Structured wandering is almost a sort of restlessness. You see, my own field, called value theory, is incredibly multidisciplinary. It involves understanding what people value, what value is, and how value drives behavior. And my interest in this field came, in a very real sense, from my own structured wandering. Structured wandering is kind of like pulling a thread from a sweater. I would read one book or learn about one concept, and that would lead me to 5 or 10 other books or 5 or 10 other questions I needed something from neuroscience or philosophy or history or physics or machine learning to answer. And so on until the thread had been pulled so much that the sweater itself became a pile of yarn. And it's this pulling of the thread, in a sense, the process of being willing to go wherever the thread takes you, that is needed to truly build our intellectual rigor. But unstructured wandering is a bit different. Albert Einstein famously invented the idea of combinatory play, in which we engage in activities completely unrelated to our main focus of knowledge. Essentially, we just play. We go for a hike, as Einstein often did. We listen to or play music or do art. We do something intrinsically relaxing and fun. And this process, as has been demonstrated in modern research, activates a part of the brain called the default mode network, which is involved in idea incubation. In essence, both of these forms of wandering, as I put it, force our brain to synthesize ideas, and this is key. You see, genius isn't simply about knowing lots of stuff or learning lots of facts. Pretty much anyone can do that. No, genius comes from innovation. Genius comes from owning the knowledge. Genius comes from being able to, much like Einstein did, make connections between seemingly unrelated concepts in ways that nobody else noticed before. And now this raises another key point about genius. Have you ever heard someone tell you, oh, I'm more of a creative humanities and art person than a science and math person, or I'm more of an analytical math and science person than an artist? But I personally just don't buy this. Yes, you can be a scientist and not have much creativity, but in order to be a great scientist, to make discoveries and invent theories that change the world, you need to have a high level of creativity and problem-solving skill that is unmatched by most people. And yes, you can be a historian or a writer or an artist and not be very analytical or mathematical, but to be a great historian or writer or artist, you must have the highest levels of precision of thought. You must have an internal logic and organizational capacity to your creations that is unmatched by most people. The bottom line, geniuses are multidimensional. They pursue philosophia, the love of wisdom, and they don't discriminate between humanities and sciences, art or math. And if you want a very in-depth understanding of why this is so important in today's world, the book Range by David Epstein is a great one to read. Okay, this is all good, but what about some kind of structured routine? Do geniuses follow any kinds of specific daily habits that help them foster the ones I've already mentioned? Yes, and that's where we get to habit number 3 on this list, creating structure. The legendary philosopher Immanuel Kant lived in the quiet town of Königsberg, and for decades he followed the exact same routine, every single day. He would wake up at 5 a.m. sharp without fail. He believed clarity of thought began with discipline. From 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. he would drink tea and smoke a single pipe of tobacco while reading and preparing for his lectures. This was his sacred time for thinking, undisturbed by the world. At 7 a.m. he began his lectures at the university, always punctual, always prepared. These lasted exactly 2 hours. By 9 a.m. he returned home for his solitary writing session. This was when he wrote his philosophical masterworks, like Critique of Pure Reason, in complete silence. Then at 1 p.m. he sat down for his main meal of the day. He ate only once, and almost always in the company of guests, philosophers, scientists, intellectuals, because Kant believed social conversation kept the mind sharp. At precisely 3:30 p.m., Kant would leave his house for a walk. Same route, same pace, every day, rain or shine. The townspeople would literally set their clocks by it. He would then return home around 5 p.m. to read, reflect, or revise his work. And by 10 p.m., the philosopher was in bed. But what's the point of sharing all this? Am I going to tell you have to wake up at 5 a.m. or have to drink a gallon of herbal tea when you wake up and so on? No. You see, unlike what the vast number of self-help gurus out there tell you, it isn't the specific routine that's important. It's simply having a specific routine in the first place. One that's predictable, one that involves having personal time to think. That's the most important. You see, the psychologist Roy Baumeister coined the term ego depletion to describe what happens when we have to deal with too many things all at once. And while this idea has been challenged in recent years, one basic idea from this theory remains well supported. Namely that when we have to deal with too many tasks all at once, we develop what is called cognitive load, which literally impairs our ability to think and judge. The power of routines, however, is that they offload cognitive tasks. They make certain decisions you would otherwise have to expend mental energy on simply automatic. Now, although there is variability in how you can choose to construct your daily routine, if your goal is daily increases in your intelligence, then 2 aspects are crucial. 1, time blocking cognitive activities according to your chronotype, and 2, developing a note-keeping system. Okay, so I'm a morning person. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, just like Kant, and getting up at 6 is considered sleeping in for me. I know, that sounds crazy, right? I pretty much get restless and can't stay in bed past this time. So it's very obvious that what's called my chronotype, or the time my mind is in peak productivity, is in morning. That's why I do all my research for YouTube videos in the morning. I do all my reading in the morning. I exercise in the morning, which, by the way, is such an overlooked habit for brain function. But do you have to be the same? No, it's very possible your chronotype is more geared toward the evening or even the afternoon. Great, if that's the case, actively schedule times in your calendar for learning time during those periods of time. You know, it's such a cliche saying, but it's absolutely true. What gets scheduled gets done. And seriously, if it's not somewhere in your calendar, it's way too easy to just put it off. Evenings and weekends, though, that's mostly when I allow my mind to wander. No schedules, no agenda, just relaxing, going for hikes, or yes, shamelessly watching stupid YouTube videos about true crime or UFOs or something. It's all good. But see, during these times, that's when I often get my best ideas, as we were discussing before. And that leads us to the second aspect we need in any routine, a note-keeping system. Have you ever had a great idea suddenly come to you, only not to write it down and later struggle to remember what it was? Those ideas are magic. They're precious. We can't afford to lose them. And that's why we always want to be prepared in those moments. You might have heard of a note-taking system called Zettelkasten, which is a slip-box note-taking system with a lot of moving parts. I have personally never used this, but so many people do swear by it, so it's worth investigating. I guess I'm a little more old school, but I found a simple system for myself that works for me. For every book or article I read, I have a specific Google document. As I read, I take notes or write quotes from the book I feel are notable, along with the page number in case I want to cite it later for some project. For any studies I read, I store those in my Notion app and I organize them according to categories so that if I'm writing or presenting on some topic, I can easily go back through those specific categories and review any studies that might be relevant for what I'll be discussing. I also journal daily, but as you also know, we can't always control when or where we're going to have an amazing idea come to us. I mean, I've had ideas come to me while I'm out grocery shopping, and so I'm glad that at those moments I have a dedicated file in my Notion app simply for random ideas that come to me in those moments. Later on, I go back into that file and see what I can use for whatever project I'm currently working on. Once again, just as having a routine itself is more important than the specific routine you have, having some note-keeping system, whether that's Zettelkasten, a pocket notebook, or something like the system I use, is the most important factor. Now that you understand 3 of the key habits for building a genius-level mind, which habit are you going to start with, and how exactly will you apply it? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you want to keep leveling up your critical thinking to make a massive impact not only on your own life, but on the lives of countless others, then be sure to watch this next video.